Hey everybody, this is Dave Dugdale, learningdslrvideo.com. I just want to thank everybody if you've been following along on my new computer build. I asked you guys a question, should I build it myself? And you all came back and said, yes, build it yourself. It's like Lego for adults. So this is my first one. I gotta say I'm a little nervous that I might screw this up. But if I do, you guys could definitely point out along the way. So if you're expecting this to be a professional showing you how to build a computer, you might as well just turn this off right now and go to Newegg or one of the other great YouTube channels that show you how to build a computer. But if you're looking for watching somebody to make a mistake, this is the place to stay and watch this video because I'm probably gonna make lots of mistakes. So I'm not big for unboxing, so let's quickly get all of these unboxed. All right, now that we got everything unboxed, at least out of the big boxes, I want to go through each one of these items. We're going to start off with the Intel i7 processor that I chose. All right, this is the i7-3930K, and it's unlocked, and it's got 6 cores in it, and I think it runs at 3.2. Yeah, 3.2 gigahertz, I believe. Again, not a computer genius here. So I can actually, since it's got 6 cores, it's actually with hyper-threading, it's gonna act like 12. And the reason I got this one is it really is a good bang for the buck when you compare it to the really top-end Intel processors that have like 32 cores in them. And you look at the performance difference when you compare this one to some of those higher-end ones. This one is like a $500 item where some of the other ones like $2,000, and this one, when you look at the benchmarks, doesn't look too bad. All right, the next item is the Asus motherboard. Pretty much when I picked my processor, I was very limited on how many motherboards were going to accept that 2011 pin connector. And this is one of them that seemed to be highly rated. So basically it's got, you know, 6 gig SATA, 3 gig SATA. It's got USB 3, which is going to be really cool for when I'm transferring my files from my SD cards or CF cards to the hard drives. A lot of great features, Bluetooth, whole bunch of neat features I've never had before. So that is pretty much the motherboard. All right, next up is the RAM. I went with 32 gig of RAM, and I maybe made a mistake on this one. I don't know exactly. And I wanted to get a faster speed. This one is at 1600 megahertz. DDR3, there's 4 of them, 8 gig a piece. And basically, when I was looking at the qualified RAM for that particular motherboard, it was really confusing on how those part numbers related to the part numbers on Newegg, and I couldn't quite figure it out. So in each product on Newegg, I read just about all the comments, and there was one person that said that their RAM didn't work with the motherboard, and I was like, oh. So what I did, I kind of cheated a little bit, and I went through the comments, and several people had used this particular RAM, this CORSAIR Vengeance. And so it worked for them, it should work for me as well. All right, next up is the graphics card. Got a lot of different comments on this one when I was asking which one worked best, but this is the GeForce 680, and it's got 4 gig, and it's an FTW, which, what is that, for the win? I'm not sure exactly what that means, but this should be a powerhouse. Now, it was very polarizing, all the different people that came in. You know, there's another card that NVIDIA makes, I think it's the Quadra series, like the 2000 and 4000 series, which is supposed to be designed for this type of, you know, graphics work, you know, with video editing. But what's really interesting is if you go to a site, and I'll put a link to it down below, it's a benchmarking site for Premiere Pro. And if you look at the top 80 cards of the benchmark test, over 1,000 people submitted their test to it. This particular card is pretty much always on top. And you know where the first one that you get into the Quadra series is the, like, I think the Quadra 4000 is number 80 and below. So this one, on all the rigs that were, you know, they were publishing, did excellent. All right, next up is the water cooling, because I do plan to overclock this processor, and I'm going with the Corsair H100i. A lot of people in the comments of my last couple of videos said this is a really good cooler. They said get the I version, not the un-I version. And I also went ahead and got 2 fans. There's a person named Linus Sebastian, Linus Tech Tips. Very famous YouTube channel. He does a lot of technology type stuff. He loves these fans, super quiet. I'm gonna be following one of his videos to the T on how he set up his case in terms of setting up the fans, because his runs super quiet. And this should allow me to overclock. He ran a whole bunch of tests, and this one should be just awesome in terms of keeping the processor cool. All right, next up is the CORSAIR Force GT SATA 3 240 gig solid state drive. And this is gonna be from my operating systems and my programs like DaVinci, Resolve Light, Premiere Pro, and like After Effects. Next up, I have a whole bunch of hard drives left over from previous whatever over the years. Got some 3 terabytes are actually backups, and some 1 terabytes I'm gonna be reusing for my other configurations. We're gonna go into that much later during the build. All right, next up, we've got the Windows Professional, Windows 7 Professional. Got the Builder's version, or OEM version. And I'll be talking about this more later, but the reason I had to get the Pro version, because I already own a license for regular Windows 7 Home Edition, is because it'll be able to access all 32 gig, up to 64 gig if I expand it up that way, of RAM. All right, next up is I got a Kingston media reader. This had really good reviews. It's a USB 3, so I'll be able to should be able to transfer stuff really quickly now compared to, you know, putting my CF cards or SD cards into my current reader. It's USB 2. So offloading my media should go a lot faster. All right, next up is the power supply. I'm probably gonna get in trouble on this one because I know you guys are gonna make lots of comments. Go ahead, you can comment. CORSAIR, I got the HX750. The reason I'm probably get comments is everybody's gonna tell me you should have got 1,000 watts. Well, I've done the calculations for this particular build, and it came out at like 450 watts with 1 graphics card. Premiere Pro doesn't really take advantage of 2 graphics card, I think in SLI mode, whatever that is. So if I were to add another graphics card, that would add more draw to the power. So I decided to go with this. And even if you do add a second graphics card, which I might in the future, and I add a ton more drives in the bay to do some fancy RAID 10 configuration and a whole bunch of other stuff, I was still under 750 watts. I was like even below 700 watts. So I'm not sure why everybody says I need to get like 1,000 watts, but go ahead and you can place your comments and you can say you should have got 1,000 watts. And if I ever run into problems, I can always switch it out. But I have a feeling it's going to be, the only thing I'm really worried about this was really rated highly on Newegg, but I was reading the reviews over the last month. A lot of them said it was dead on arrival. So I'm kind of nervous about this one. All right, next up is the case. It's a Fractal Design, Refine, Define R4. I can't remember the name of the part of this. I'll put in the link below. But this particular case was recommended by you guys a lot. A lot of you chimed in, and like in the YouTube comments, you said, Dave, you got to get this case. It's just awesome. So I got it. And it does look awesome. It's supposed to be really quiet. And hopefully it'll be a case I can use for many builds to come after this one. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to start building. And what I'm going to do, so you guys know how much time it takes to build this, is I'm going to use my iPhone and I'm going to start the stopwatch when I start. And anytime I have to stop to go do something else, you might actually see me change shirts during this whole video because I might not be able to do this all in one shot. Some people said it should only take 2 or 4 hours. It might take me days because I might lose part or not have the right parts. I might run into stumbling blocks where I'm supposed to connect things. So let's go. I really like this Fractal case. It's really well built and has excellent noise dampening on both side panels. I was expecting more from the manual because it's my first build. You know, recommendations like putting in the motherboard before you put in the radiator cooler. which, yeah, I made that mistake. I really like working with the white color of the case because it gave me more light to work with inside the case. Black cases can be kind of, I don't know, easy to lose stuff and hard to see stuff inside the case. You can remove the upper disk drive bay and actually rotate it if you want to get better airflow through the hard drives. You can also just take it totally out so you have more room to work with when you're doing your build. Like I said before, Linus Sebastian recommended to go with the Noctua, I believe, NF120s. They're his favorite fans. They're kind of pricey, but I wanted to spend good money on the case and fans because I'm going to be rebuilding this in the same case for years to come. Since I didn't use a wrist strap, here you can see me trying to ground the static after I picked up the motherboard. What was I thinking? Before mounting the motherboard, I installed the 6 standoffs that came with the case. Before putting in the motherboard in the case, I wanted to install the CPU and the RAM first. I watch a lot of people on YouTube do this, so I followed kind of what they did in terms of opening it up. I tried to be very careful when pressing on the motherboard because I didn't want to crack any of the traces. I removed the CPU cover plate next. Taking the CPU out of the plastic case and only touching the sides was not that easy. Alright, so that's keyed that way. I'm just going to double check my work here. And there's a little key marking right there, and that's the only place it's got it. Yep, so you're not supposed to put any force on it. You're just supposed to kind of gently place it into place. Very gently. Here we... Even after I said not to touch it, what did I do? Yeah, I touched it. Closing up was a bit nerve-wracking because it required a lot more force than I thought. The V-shaped bracket was pretty much okay to put down, but the U-shaped bracket was much harder than I thought. I was kind of expecting to hear something snap, like I had done something wrong, but it went in just fine. Next up, I installed the RAM. This was easy since I'd done it before, but I didn't get the 4th one in all the way. After putting in the motherboard side plate, it was time to put the motherboard in. Next up was the standoffs for the cooler, but I had to stop at this point because there was this mistake in the Corsair manual, so I had to give them a call and they were nice enough to tell me which one to use. Next up, I installed the radiator again, for the 2nd time now that the motherboard is in. Then I watched Linus Sebastian's video again and noticed that his fans were on top, blowing air out, and they were on top of the radiator. So for the 3rd time, I reinstalled the radiator and the fans. Finally, I got to install the cooler onto the CPU. Since it already had thermal paste, I got to skip this step entirely, which was really nice. But since I had touched the CPU, I had to clean it off with some rubbing alcohol. I took my time to make sure that each screw had even pressure on the CPU, since somebody on YouTube said it was important. Next up was the PSU, the Corsair 750. It's not a fully modular, but it's pretty close. So after screwing it in, I started running all the cables. I would later come to find out this PSU has a very annoying feature. Every 5 minutes the fan would go full blast after being off, and it would be full blast for about 3 or 4 seconds, then it would turn itself off again. I called the Corsair rep and asked him what's going on. He said, well, it's designed that way. And I told him, I said, I'd rather have the fan run at a very slow speed all the time than blasting air out of it every 5 minutes. Next up, I installed the GPU, which was another mistake. I should have saved this until last because it was really hard connecting all the wires around the motherboard. I didn't buy a DVD, so I stole one out of my old computer. I was thinking about giving my old computer away on a Facebook contest, but my sister actually saw the post and said she wanted it. So sorry, family comes first. Installing the DVD was pretty easy. Next, I installed my old hard drives, which I ended up rearranging them several times. I printed out labels for each, the media drive, the preview drive, the OS drive, and the export drive. I connected the front and rear fans to the motherboard, but later I ended up connecting them to the case fan controller because for some reason I couldn't get the fan speed low enough using the BIOS or other programs that came with the motherboard. There was lots of connections to make and I was really happy that I had all the cables I needed. I tried to make the messy side panel look good, but I couldn't, so I just put the side panel back on. All right, the moment of truth is at hand. I'm about to turn it on. I've been at this for about 4 hours now, give or take. Actually, no, add 2 hours to this, so 6 hours total. So let's go ahead and stop that. So I think I've got everything built up correctly. We're gonna go out and try to turn this on. Hopefully at least see a fan turn on. So we need to know that I've connected one of the fans correctly and the power supply is working. A lot of things can go wrong at this point. So let's go ahead and hit the power switch on the top and cross my fingers. And we have nothing. Maybe that's because we have to turn this on first. No light or anything on there. It's not making me feel too good, and here we go. I see light up there. I see numbers. I see fan movement. I even see the CORSAIR thing on. It's just making me happy. Now we gotta wait and see. Oh, this is good. It kind of paused there for a second. There's the hard drive. Asus. A bunch of stuff, I don't know. CPU fan error. Okay, I guess I can deal with that. I don't know what. Press F1 to set up. After fixing the fan issue, I ran a bunch of tests to find out the right balance of fan noise to cooling after I overclocked both the CPU and the GPU. I found that running the front and rear fans down at 400 RPM and then running the top radiator fans at 700 RPM with the profile with the CORSAIR Link 2 software, I got the right balance I was looking for. With these settings during a long video render, the CPU ran at 58 degrees centigrade, the GPU at 65 degrees, and the motherboard at 36 degrees. At idle, the CPU ran at 39 degrees centigrade, and the GPU at 37 degrees, and the motherboard at 32 degrees. In terms of backup, I use an eSATA external drive, and I do off-site as well as on-site backup. So this computer I have labeled Dave's Monster. It's definitely faster than my old computer, and it solved a lot of issues already that I was having that didn't even deal with speed in terms of DaVinci and Premiere. There was a few little items that was always bothering, but now has just gone away, which is just awesome. How much faster is it compared to my old computer? I don't know yet because I'm gonna wait probably a couple more weeks. I'm gonna probably try a few more different tests in terms of overclocking. I might do a RAID 0 on my media drive. So first off, I'd like to thank Harm Millard for helping me with the disk setup. I'd like to thank Juan Salvo and Dave over at Studio One Productions for helping me with the graphics card. I'd like to thank Michelangelo Girardi, if I'm pronouncing his name right, for the opening bumper of this video. And I'm gonna be doing another video on that probably in the next couple of days. Also, I'd like to thank Linus Sebastian for helping me with the fans, and Paul over at Newegg and Will over at UnknownLobster. Definitely watch their videos if you're looking to build a computer, because both those guys have excellent building videos. Awesome stuff, definitely check them out. So how much did this all cost? It cost $2,385. Now some of you are gonna probably say, Dave, that's just way overkill. Let me ask you the question, how much did your camera, your lenses, your sliders, all that stuff cost? Probably more than $2,300. My 5D Mark III cost $3,500 last year. That's $1,000 more than the computer I just built. I spend a lot more time behind the computer editing than I do shooting, although I'd like to shoot more, but it's just one of those things. So if I can get faster speed and edit faster, that means I can be out in the field shooting more. And for some of you that I know that are gonna comment, why didn't you get a Mac? I went to apple.com and I configured a comparable system to the one I just built, and it came in at $3,000 more than what I just built. So I have nothing against Macs, people that own Macs. I just have a problem with the Apple tax. So that's pretty much it, and I've got to thank all of you guys from YouTube, Vimeo, Facebook, Google+, Twitter, that have all given me great recommendations on what to buy and what not to buy. You guys told me do it yourself, build it. You'll have lots of fun. And I did. I had a lot of fun. It is a bit more work. And one of the things nobody tells you is, yeah, it might only take 4 or 6 hours to build, but it's going to take you a lot longer to install the software. So that's pretty much it. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.